Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with a very much requested video. And the video concerns the coloured glue book that I shared with you a little while ago. Okay, I have had numerous requests asking how did I turn a composition notebook into a coloured glue book. And even though this wasn't my idea, I was inspired by Nicole at Relax Cut Glue. I've shared with you links to her channel, which I will share a link to her channel in the description below. And I've shared with you the video where she actually explained and showed how she did it. You are still asking me, Ceri, can you show us the way you would do it? Okay, I'm more than happy to do that. I have learnt lessons along the way. I did things slightly differently than Nicole with this one. There are things I'm going to do differently with my next setup, and yes, it's worth sharing. Right, first of all, composition notebook. On my recent trip to my vacation in America, I picked up some of these, and one of them was sole purpose was to make a new glue book because some of the colors within here are already completed and I can't move on because I was thinking I had to complete all the colors before I could make the next glue book. Coloured glue book. I learned a lot of lessons doing this one. So let's put this to one side and explain things about this. Okay, when I started a coloured glue book, me being me, I thought, right, I need to get this done. And I worked really hard to try and complete it, not realising truly that a coloured glue book is a long-term investment project. Basically, it could take you a year or more, even if more than that. And I think that's one of the things I've learned as a subscriber from Nicole's channel is it's okay to have several glue books on the go all at the same time and visit them when it's appropriate. So that was lesson number one. Number two, I just want you to look at the spine of this. There you go. That is what that spine is eventually going to become. I will refer to putting stress on the spine a couple of times when we do the build, but just know there's no pages taken out. This is how strong this spine has been. Okay, there's another thing I want to point out too. I normally get the ones that say made in Vietnam. Now there's wide rule, there's narrow rule, there's grid, there's different versions of these. It doesn't matter what the pages look like, but I have been told that the made in Vietnam ones are the best. I like this fabric sort of thing on the spine. It's been robust, and as you can see, I've put this through some heck so far. So let's have a quick flick at some of the things I learned here, which I will address when I'm showing you how to build a new one. Okay, when I first built this one, when I stuck the covering on the front and back covers, I found that the edge of the tape, this edge, isn't always straight. Sometimes it's got a little curve in it. So I'm going to address that because it took some doing to try and match it all up, whereas I've got a fix for that. I also, when I put the inside pieces in, maybe the back will show you better. Maybe it will. When I put the inner pieces in, I stopped before I got to the spine. That was on purpose because I didn't want to put card right down into the base of the spine because it would bulk it out. What I want to do this time though is I want to put a line of washi down there first and then put the backing on it so that I don't have all of this. That was way too much gap. I just need probably about a 1/4 to 1/2 inch maximum gap down there. That was another thing I learned. The colour of the pages, or the colours of the rainbow, which is what I'm going to do the next time, not just colours of my choice. Now, when Nicole did it, Nicole used washi tape for the edges of her pages because she had a whole set of rainbow coloured washies. I didn't, so me being me, I wasn't going to spend money unless I actually had to. What I did is I pulled my gel plate out and I gel printed copier paper in the right colours. So that was the purple, that was the red. Then I cut them into 1-inch strips. Was it 1-inch strips? Where's that ruler gone? I'd say probably 2-inch strips looking at those, and then I folded them and glued them around the edges of the pages. Some I did have the right washi for, but the majority of them I didn't. So as you can see, I put paper down the edges. The paper was thicker than the washi, and I felt that really bulked the pages up a bit anyway. Not too much of a problem, because now I've actually ended up having a set of washi that is actually the colours I want. So that was another thing I learnt. Another lesson I learnt here was I was so eager to get the backgrounds done. So I'm looking for one that's going to give you a good example. Probably purple's probably the best. Here. Okay. I thought it'd be a really good idea to get backgrounds done as quickly as possible. And what I did is I used as many little pieces of purple that I could find to stick on that page. The red, that one's pretty much been covered. Let's see, is there another colour of, oh, here you go. So I was adding any little tiny strips of the colour I could to create the background and cover up my initial lined papers, when in fact, I needn't have done that. I could have just worked on one page at a time, but the way my brain was, I wanted to get all of the backgrounds done before I started using it as a glue book. That's not necessary. I also wouldn't do the little patches of colour again, because where they overlapped, it built up and built up and built up the pages. I will address what I did instead towards the end of the video when I actually talk about creating backgrounds. Okay, what was the next thing I learned? Okay, right, when I did my initial glue book, what I did was I took 2 pages and glued them together. And what I did is I just glued them down this edge. So I didn't have glue all the way through here, purely because that would have made it wrinkly. And then as I worked, if I put an image on a page, I wrapped it over the top of the page to seal the top of the page. I don't want to do that this time. That really did mean that some of the pages got bulky way too early. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm just going to thin line of glue there, thin line of glue there. This one is going to get held together with washi tape anyway. Now, I'm going to get questions as to, well, Ceri, if you're sticking 2 pages together, why don't you just tear every other page out? If you tear the pages out, it's going to weaken the stitching that holds this together. Your pages are going to move around. These are really, really thin pages. And what I thought, if I glued them together, which is what Nicole did, that means I've got 2 sheets of paper holding into the spine. These are going to get thicker anyway, because remember, I'm going to put background pieces on here and glue elements on here, so they'll thicken up. Also, this one has, where is it? I thought it was written on here. There it is. It's got 80 sheets. There's no way in heck I want 80 sheets, because that gives me 80 and 80 is 160. I don't need 160 sides. So if I halve it so it's 40, which will be sticking every other sheet together, that's more manageable. And that's what I did with this one. And as you can see, it's not fully complete yet, but that's big enough. And this thing weighs a ton. So those are the lessons I learned. I also learned another lesson in that I was trying to be absolutely red, must be completely and utterly red. There's a blue one. Blue must be completely and utterly blue. Actually, it's your glue book. It's my glue book. So what I'm going to do with the new one is, if the images I'm using are within the family of blue, then they go on the page. If they're within the family of orange, they can go on the page. If they're within the family of red, they can go on the page. Now, I'm not going to put pink on a red page, but there's everything from a dark red to a light red, to a raspberry red, to a maroon, to a burgundy. So I'm going to allow myself to do that, because I was trying to be too strict with myself. And that sort of meant I passed over a lot of the things I would have used. So those were the lessons I learned from there. I have also, because I subscribe to Nicole at Relax Cut Glue, and I watch all of her videos when she puts them out, I have along the way learnt so many different reasons why things were done. So I will try and pass them on to you as quick or as easily as I can as I'm creating. So I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to address the cover inside and out. Now, creating a colour glue book is a very repetitive process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one front cover, and I'm going to then I'm then going to pause you while I do the back cover. Then I'm going to trim it, and then I'm going to do the inside cover. Once I've done the inside cover, again, I'll pause you while I do the other inside cover. Once I glue the pages, I'll glue one page just so you can see how it's done. You don't need to see 40 pages being glued. So know that I'm going to condense this as much as I can time-wise, which if I've done my math right, it means at the end I'll have time to actually explain where to look for background images, what sort of background images to select, and what sort of papers to look for. So, first things first. Now, I did mention that this line wasn't necessarily straight. So I've got a permanent black marker, and I've got myself a straight ruler. I know the ruler is straight because it's a metal ruler. I haven't bent it. And I'm just going to draw one line right down there, just in case there's any sort of variation. That will just make sure that that's a perfectly straight line. I will butt the double-sided tape up against this, but if there's even the slightest bit of movement there, then at least I know that bit is covered. I don't think Nicole did this, but it's certainly what I would recommend, purely because it's a good thing to do. It will help you out in the long run. Right, so that's that bit done. Now, when it comes to the inside, I'm going to put washi down here. So when we get to do that, I'll discuss with you my choice of washi for that. Now, I like using double-sided tape, and I like using the double-sided tape that's used for carpeting. Okay, so laying carpets. This is the brand I'm using. There are definitely loads and loads of different widths and strengths of double-sided tape. Look in your hardware store, that's probably where you're likely to find it. I do believe you can actually buy entire like letter or A4 size pieces of double-sided tape that you could just do it in one whole sheet, but I prefer this, and that's the way I've been working. And also I tend to stick any little bits that are offcuts back onto the side of the roll so I can use those. Put that to one side. What I will also need when I'm doing this, I will also need a pair of scissors, and I'll need a sharp blade. So I've got one of these. It's a relatively new blade, probably need to change it shortly. And I've got one of these self-healing mats because I don't want to damage this one. I like the colour of this one. It films really well. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to line up this across the front of the cover. Now, I'm probably going to have to pull this closer to me to start doing this because I need to be able to see directly where that is. So forgive me when I pull this down. If I go off shot, it's because I'm trying my darndest to get it right. So I tend to do that. I flip this over, put it on my cutting mat, and I'm going to just run that along the edge of the book. And what that does, it gives me a really nice clean cut there. And I turn the book around and I do exactly the same on the other side. And that gives me double-sided tape all the way to the edges. Now, you could, if you've got narrower double-sided tape, you could do double-sided tape there, and there, and just put a wet glue or a stick glue in there. That's your choice. That's not how I choose to do it, but that's obviously a choice. Now, I tend to do the inside, and by the inside, I mean this bit and this bit first, because it's very rare I'm going to have double-sided tape that fits exactly the cover. Now, when it comes to rounding the corners out, I'm going to use, what am I going to use? I'm going to use a round corner punch to do it, but I will do it once I've actually got everything in place. So know that I'm probably not going to do that when I've just got double-sided tape. So, right, I'm going to put another piece of this down. Now, if you've got narrower double-sided tape, you can obviously make up the gap that's left there with a smaller or narrower double-sided tape. Actually, I think I've got some somewhere. Let's see if I can just find that, tidy that off. The reason I tidy up the ends as I go is purely because the moment you take the backing off, you're going to have stickiness everywhere. Right, let's see if I've got a strip. I'm almost certain I have. Let's get any air bubbles out of that while I'm in this. If I get air bubbles out at this point, two things are happening. Number one, I'm burnishing this down, which means it'll be fully in contact. And secondly, it means it's going to be more adhered to that. So bear with me a second. Yes, I do. I've got a narrower double-sided tape here. It's probably not the same strength as the other one, but that doesn't bother me. The cover's definitely going to be held in place, and if it starts to lift up, I'll just put a dotted glue underneath it. It's for me at the end of the day. It's not for anyone else. There you go. Right. So now, what am I choosing to cover this with? Now, the first one I did, or the first time I did a glue book, I used some of my gel prints. Now, this time I'm going to use something different because I thought not everyone has gel prints, but that was my first one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use 12 by 12s. So I decided this is going to be my outside because it's nice and fresh, and that's going to be my inside. But I obviously need to cut these down a bit. So what measurements do I need? I'm going to do them slightly larger than actually the page requires. So I need it to be, I'm going to make it 7 by 10. And I'm doing that because, again, if I stick this down, as soon as it's in contact with the tape, it's down, it's done. So 7 by 10, right? This is a non-directional, so I'm quite happy with that. Just pull in my guillotine, and I said 7 by 10. So 7 doesn't have to be absolutely accurate, but if I can, I will be. I mean, any little bit I have leaning out the outside of pieces will get trimmed off. So these obviously go somewhere else. They get turned into other stuff in the future. So now I've got my two pieces. Well, that's certainly not going to be my outside cover. So, right. So just do a quick check. Does it still fit? It does, it fits. I've got enough playroom all the way around so that if I accidentally stuck it down and missed a bit, that's why I always cut it just ever so slightly larger. Now, let's put that one to one side and just work on this. So I'm going to come in, I'm just going to use my blade. Obviously, if you're using a blade, please be careful. I mean, we're all adults here. My videos are not meant to be for children, so why can't I pick this up? I think it's because I'm trying to do it through an iPad. Come on, why aren't you coming up? There you go. I wasn't being aggressive enough with the blade, apparently. This should come up because it's an easier finger lift. There you go, right, that goes out the way. Just want to smooth this bit down because where I was picking it up, I moved it right. Now, for me personally, I find it easier to have the edge where I can see it and then hold the paper like this. So I know that I've got this with a gap either side, and I just come in, let gravity help you, and then just give it a press down. Now, if you're someone who thinks you are going to abuse your books, you can always come in and give this a layer of Mod Podge if you wish. I never have done that. I've just let my book be abused. It gives it character. Because this is actually a 12 by 12 cardstock, eventually I may collage or do something on the front of it anyway. So if I was to put a Mod Podge on here, maybe a glue stick or some of the other glues may not stick to Mod Podge, but that's just a personal choice. So, right, now I've done that, I'm just going to flip this open. So, and this is the reason I like using double-sided tape because it's instantly stuck. I'm going to come in with my blade, line it up top and bottom, take that bit off and do the same on the sides here. It's getting dark outside my window. I've got a feeling we're in for a rainy day, should we say. Well, a rainy day. I've been up all day. It's afternoon here. So now you can use the same method, obviously, for turning a composition notebook into any covered book. Okay, let's just put those to one side. Now at this point, I'm going to pull in my round punch, which is this one. And if I take a look, I would say it's the 7 mil, which is about the right size. So I'm going to come in, snip, snip, and if it doesn't match it perfectly, like it's just missed it a bit there, don't worry, because the next time you do the inside cover, it's going to be fine. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to put the back cover on, and then I'll come back and we'll start working on the inside cover. So, and this, if by magic, there you go, the front and back has been done. Now, this is a great way if you've got kids going off to college, university, school, and you want to make their notebooks a little more unique to them. That's an easy way to do it, and you still got everything on the inside should you need it. So let's deal with the inside now. Now, because I was green on the outside, I've actually picked green for the inside. Now, the dimensions are slightly different here. I've done 10 as normal, which is the height, but instead of done 7, I've done 7.5, because obviously the front cover has got that, but the inside hasn't. But we are going to put washi down here just to conceal that white edge, because the washi is thinner than this, and I really don't want to bind up the spine. Not that I've had a problem with the previous one. As you can see, nothing has fallen out. There's been no damage. The spine hasn't destroyed itself. It's just something I thought I'd like as an aesthetic. So what I did is I hunted through my washies and I found this washi, which is near as darn it the same colour. So let's move those to one side. So I like to open my book up. Let's find a weight. I've got a paperweight here just to hold it in place. And I've got some old magazine pages, which I use as glue pages. And I've got, this is a brand of glue stick I use because I don't trust washi tape. I've never trusted washi tape. So I'm just going to tear a piece off. I'm going to run my washi tape under my glue stick just to add a little bit more of a adhering surface to it. And I'm going to come in and I am going to butt that up against the spine as close as I can. Try and get any creases out of it. Where's my store card? So I've got that in there, and I'm just going to get myself a little pair of scissors and just snip off the excess while it's still wet. And I do that because if I need to lift up the tape to cut it, I can do. I mean, I can always tidy up any really weird bits at the end of the day when it's all done, but normally this is how I would do it. And just while that's drying, let's move that to one side for another pile of stuff. Let's do exactly the same on the other side, and then I know that's already prepped, and I'm not likely to get ahead of myself and actually forget what I'm supposed to be doing, which is very likely. So again, on with a bit of the glue stick. Now, if you've got tape that isn't washi tape, but it is thin as washi tape, you could use that tape if you wish. My concern was I didn't want anything that was too thick up against the spine here, but I wanted it all to match, you know. I just thought, I mean, if we look at this against that, that's a really nice complementary. And also that straight line of the washi is where I'm going to be sticking my double-sided tape. I'm on one of those days where I'm being a little bit awkward. Don't ask me why, it's just one of those days. I think we all have them. Half the time I blame it on a full moon. I don't know whether it's a full moon or not. And a lot of the time it is the full moon, which is what's a bit spooky. So Let's go to one side. Right, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I do this once, and then I will pause you and do the other side. So I'm going to be putting on my double-sided tape again, and I'm going to use that as my starting line, because I know the washi is straight, because I just put it on there. And if I miss a little bit along the way, I'm not really going to worry about it. Okay, cutting it this time is a little trickier because I'm going to use the knife, but I'm just going to use the edge of the book as a guide. So be a little more careful about it. I try not to turn the book over for the simple reason that I've then got to do things like this, and then I've got to pull this over, and that in itself is putting stress on the spine. But that is the way you can do it if you wish to do it that way. Okay, so we've got the first one on there. Now, as I did before, put that out of the way, it's getting in my way. I'm going to do the outside one next because I know this tape is the strongest of the tapes. Now come in, match it to that outside edge. Now it could be this time that my, what was I going to say? It could be this time that my tape is the right width. I'm going to do it this way because I've just decided I feel more comfortable doing it that way today. Don't know, some days I have good days, some days have bad days. I've got a feeling if I'm going to slip at all, today would be the day I would slip. So, one more strip. Sorry about all this spinning around, but hopefully you are totally getting what I'm doing. And this is probably, I'd say probably one of the trickiest bits of this process. I don't think the process is tricky at all. However, if there was going to be a bit you would struggle with, I would imagine it's dealing with heavy-duty double-sided tape, because if it sticks to something, it's stuck to something. So you've got to be a little cautious when you're wielding your roll of tape. But you could use just glue stick. You could use any glue you want. You could use white glue, anything like that. Right, now I know that this here is wider than this tape, so I'm going to do 2 strips of this. This is what's called thumb lift. In other words, there's an edge down the side of this tape that has no double-sided tape on it. So let's tear that off there. Why am I doing it with that? I don't do it with that. As I said, I don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm not exactly firing on all cylinders, but it's fine. It's probably lack of sleep or too much coffee, or I'll blame anything except myself, obviously. So we've got that done. Now, same as before, I just need to peel off all of the double-sided tape. So come in from this end, take the debris off there. Why is it I always cut my nails before I do a video, and then I forget actually my fingernails are actually one of the tools I should be using, and I always forget about them. But never mind. So, get rid of the trash. Now, again, I'm going to do exactly what I did before. I'm going to use this edge here to line my cardboard up against. So on my craft paper, so I'm going to hold it in my fingers so I know that it overlaps slightly the edges of the cover. Take your time to get that bit right, and then just once it's down, as I said, you're committed. But that's another reason why I give myself a little bit of a border, because if you look here, I didn't lay that down completely straight. So if this had been the same size as the cover itself, guess what? I would have had a gap. So same process as before, just going to come in. I'm going to use my metal ruler again because I like to cut up against a metal ruler when I can. Now you are going to have the edge of the book, this edge here. You can, if you wanted, come in with an ink pad and rub an ink pad along the edges of those covers, and then that would actually mean that they're not white. I don't mind in the slightest them being white or the color of the card. I'm okay with that, but I know some people like to make sure that they're all covered up. So just going to come in with my 7mm punch again. It's going to be a little tricky at this time because it's a real thickness. I'm going to have to cut this. Yeah, you might find, depending on the thickness of the craft card or craft paper you're using to cover, sometimes it fits into my craft punch, sometimes it doesn't. But it's easy enough done by hand. Right, so there you go. So that's the front cover done, inside and out. I like the way that looks. That's all nice and neat, ready to go. It's this edge here, I said, if you wanted to cover it. I'm not going to do it on mine because I don't need to. But if you had an ink pad, I would just run your ink pad along the sides and that would just cover that. You could come in with like a marker, and if you're really careful, put the marker on its side and run the marker along the edges, but only if you want to. I don't think that's necessary. Right, I've done one. Going to pause you and I'll be back with the next one. So here we are, guys. Front and back is done, and the inside of both the front and back are done as well. I know they're well and securely glued. We're moving on to the next stage now. We're going to deal with the papers, as in the pages, and how I would glue them together. There are loads of different ways you can do this bit, guys. Completely and utterly up to you. I tend to use a Pritt stick or a glue stick for this process. Some people would say let's use art glitter glue because you can run a very fine line along the edge of the pages. I find that when I use a glue stick, I can flatten it out, whereas sometimes with art glitter glue, it leaves a bit of a raised edge on it. So just a personal preference. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could use very narrow double-sided tape, but I'm not sure I would go down that route. Now, word of warning, the pages are really thin, and in the past, I thought I picked up one page when actually I picked up several pages. So what I would say is when you're about to glue them, do double check what you're doing. Now, I would advise getting a piece of paper. Let's get a magazine. I've got a page of a magazine here. And picking up 2 sheets at a time, putting a magazine or something under it so you're not putting the glue stick all the way down. And what your aim is to run a little bit of glue along there, a little bit of glue along there. And I'm not saying a vast amount, I'm saying just use the edge of your glue stick along the edges. I mean, if it ever starts to come apart, it's an easy fix. And then what I do is I pull this over the top, make sure I pull it reasonably tight, and I just smooth it out with my hands. And that's it done. I don't worry about this side. Why? Because we're going to put the washi tape on it. So, right, once you've done that once, for the first page, move this. I've got glue on there. My dear, doesn't matter. This page is going to get covered with imagery anyway. I just don't like the fact that I've now put a gluey fingerprint in the middle. It'll get covered. Step away from it, Griffiths. Right, put that up. Do the process again. Make sure you've only got 2 pages. Put it underneath. Fold that one up and glue this one down. So I'm going to now do that for the entirety of this glue book, and then I'll be back with you to show you what the next stage is. So all done. Gluing 80 pages into 40, I will freely admit, is not a quick process. I would say stick a movie on, stick your favourite music on, and just methodically do it. But I can tell you that just gluing the top and the bottom is far quicker and a lot less stressful than trying to glue the whole page. I don't mind if this is hollow in the middle. This is going to end up being sealed. The reason I'm double paging it is because I want that double strength there coming into the spine. So next we start to need to do the fun bit, which is turning it into a coloured glue book. Now, at this point, it doesn't matter whether this is at the top or this is at the top. Remember, all these pages are going to eventually be covered. So if you've messed up somewhere, or you have a preference to one look or another, this point you can switch your glue book around and make a decision from there as to which is your front. Okay, so now we now have 40 of these pages, okay, throughout here. And when you look at the rainbow has 7 colors in it. It has red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and purple. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Now, 7 into 40 doesn't go. So what I've made the decision to do, and I'm quite glad purple is the last color, because purple was one of the ones I really struggled with in my previous glue book. So I'm going to do 3 pages of red, 3 pages of orange, 3 pages of yellow, 3 pages of green, 3 pages of blue. I've got 2 different colors because I'm not sure that I've got enough tape. Hopefully I have with that, but you know, I can always make it up with that. 3 pages of indigo, which indigo to me is just going to be dark blue, almost on the verge of dark purple. And then when it comes to the violet, which is the last one, it's going to be 2 pages of that. So what I would say is at this point, just in case you get carried away, because goodness knows I have as well, if I go through my book and I go, that's 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4 page, I usually just get a bit of a post-it note and stick it in there. Some people call these sticky notes. So I just double check that I've got 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4 page, because I've been known to get carried away and all of a sudden, guess what? I've done 5 pages. So again, I'm going to turn my book around. Let's put the paper weight on there, the book weight, just because it takes that away from the reflection. Now, when I did this the last time with the paper strips, I literally just folded the paper strip off and stuck it over the edge. This time I wanted to do the half width of the washi. Now when I measured the washi, it's not a measurement that I can equally divide in 2. So I thought, right, I'm just going to use my noggin here. And I've got a quilting ruler here, which is, because I do quilting. And I thought I'm going to come in and I'm going to put a 1/4 inch pencil line down the side of the page. So just a 1/4 inch. This bit is completely and totally unnecessary, guys. This is just me being really picky about things looking uniform. So the process will be, I will do that. Actually, let's put a magazine page underneath this so I don't get anything else gluey. So that's how I prep my page. I just put that 1/4 inch line down there. I know my first color is red, so I'm going to get a bit of magazine again. I'm going to pull a strip of the red out. Now I bought these as a pack. They were rainbow colors, so just know that they do exist. I didn't have them the first time round, but I know Nicole used patterned. So if you've got patterned ones, like I do have patterns, but I thought I'd like them all to be uniform because that's just the way my brain is wired. If you want them patterned, if you've got a patterned washi in each of the colors, and by all means use those, because I think that's how Nicole did it on hers. So I'm just going to run my glue stick down there, because as I said, I don't trust glue stick. Then I'm going to come in, I'm going to line that up with the edge of there. I'm just going to thumb press that down, and I'm going to lift this up, pull this down, and then I'm just going to fold it over. I tend to work just by running my fingers along, and I work it until it's there. It's all nicely down. Now, I pinch the ends, and then I'll come in and just snip them. Now, after I've done the whole book, these will be dry, and when they're dry, I just come with my corner rounder again, and I just corner round them. So once I've done that, just make sure I've given it a really good press. And as you can see, that gives me a nice edge to my page. It means I can see from the outside as well. So what I'm going to do now is, once again, I'm going to pause here. Sorry for this, but this is easier than watching me do 40 pages of this. I'm going to now do the same process for the whole book, using each of the different colors as I go through. Hi guys, right, I'm back. It's all finished. Now, for those of you who are a lot more mathematical than I am, and I have never said I'm mathematical in the slightest, you will have noted I did my calculations wrong. I said there was 3 of each colour, and I think what I must have done is I must have counted half the book thinking I would double the number, and then I divided it by 7. Well, guess what? There wasn't 3 red, there was 6. There was 6 orange, there was 6 yellow, there was 6 green, there was 6 blue, there were 6 indigo, and 4 violet. But I didn't realise that until I got to the middle of the book. So, as Patricia from PM Artist Studio is heard to say very often, be prepared to modify your plans. So yes, I have 3 of each colour at the beginning, and then I decided to do 3 of each colour from the back. So basically, my rainbow goes from the outside to the inside. And you know what? I'm actually thinking about that, thinking, you know what, that's not too bad, because I'll work on the forward reds, and then when they're done, I'll work on the back. This is meant to be a project that's going to take a long time to do, so I don't mind that I've actually not got 6 pages of red to get through, because that might be a bit overwhelming. So yeah, so forgive my calculations, that's just me, I'm not good at math. So we've got our pages all done. As you can see, I rounded the corners, all done with coloured washi tape, all ready to go. So this will now go on my shelf and I can start working with it. But I did say I wanted to talk to you about what you can use for backgrounds. Now, I would say if you're going to glue a background in, try to leave a little tiny bit of the spine unglued. Don't always tuck completely into the space there, which is what you will want to do. Now, it could be if you wanted to get that coloured up, you could always run a marker down there, because I can tell you ink is a lot less thicker than anything else you're going to put on there. So, but it's up to you. I mean, in my previous one here, I did go all the way into the spine, and I haven't broken the spine of this one. And believe me, there's a heck of a lot of papers in there, probably more papers than I needed in there. But just know that if there's any weak spot at all, it's this, and that's why I like the ones from Vietnam, because they're really, really strong. Anyway, enough of me gassing. Let's just open that up so we can see some examples. So, before you start going, Ceri, I've got nothing to build a background with. Actually, you probably have if you look around your studio. Things like this, a 6x6 pad. The papers are not that thick. You want to keep looking for thin papers. And if I flick through here, I mean, that could go on a green page. That could definitely go on a green page. That could go on a green page. So as you can see, there's stuff in there. Likewise, here's another one now. The backgrounds don't always have to be plain. That could go on my blue page. That could go on my orange page. Don't think I'd put that on my red page. That could go on the indigo page or the lilac. That could go on the blue page. That could go on the green page maybe. Don't know, I have to think about that one. But as you can see, like that could go on the blue page. So even though this isn't a whole page cover-up, it actually gives you most of it. I wouldn't mind a strip down there and a piece there that's different. It's when I was doing all the little pieces that were actually the problem. Now, another thing I really like to use is one of these. They're called an origami book, stack book. I mean, I get them in my local stationery store. Oh, what's the thing called? I think it's called The Works. The bookshop's called The Works. And you get 400 sheets of origami paper, which by nature has to be really, really thin anyway. And look at all the colours in here. How many of these could I use? I mean, there's almost my entire rainbow is in this one book. So if I did want to come in and cover my pages, obviously not with pink, I could start and maybe put a panel there, a panel there. I could choose maybe 3 different designs and put them in. So really, really thin papers. And I use these a lot of the time when I don't want to add bulk to ephemera. And talking of ephemera, go through those pages of stuff like that could go on the green page. that could potentially go on the orange page, orange. Probably put that on the red page, green page, orange, yellow, yellow, yellow. So these are just, I mean, these came in Happy Mail to me, so I'm not sure what company they come from. But you can always find papers like this. You've probably got some stuffed in the drawer somewhere. Then we come on to things like craft papers. Now these papers came free in a magazine. It was a crafting magazine, and the magazine had a bundle of papers in them, so I could use that for my blue, I could use that for my green, I could potentially use that one for my purple if I really wanted to. Probably wouldn't use that one, but that could go on to green. Definitely green. That's a bit of a dirty green. I don't know that I'd want that one on there. That's a nice green, because the thing is, these are literally a background. You're likely to cover the majority of it up. I mean, there's a blue. I mean, it shows how thin that one is. Again, I could put that on a green page. Probably put that on a blue one. That's a blue. That could go on a yellow page, because remember, it's all colours within that one colour. Like, so if it's blue, it can be light blue, dark blue, a shade, just a blue. So that's another blue, that's another blue. These are a bit thicker. These are more cardstock. I would avoid using stuff that is more card-like. Go for things that are more paper. Another good thing to use too is wrapping paper. Wrapping paper is ultra thin and really works. You could always get yourself like a multicolored A4 pad of paper. I mean, my local stationery store sells these. That's pretty much the majority of the rainbow there. So I could come in and I could cover an entire page in one go if I wanted. I do think this is a little heavier than I would normally use, but if I was stuck for it, I mean, this is £75. I mean, I probably wouldn't go that heavy on it, but if I was stuck for a colour for a page background, I could always do that. And then there's things like stuff you find in magazines. So this is just a bundle. Let's move this book out of the way, actually. This is just a bundle of things that, like, that could go on my yellow page. Now, no, it's not a full page, but by doing that, that gives me a border and a border. I can use smaller images, like there's another one, there's another one, and these were just from a magazine. There you go, that's an islands, but that could actually easily go into the blue. Not sure where I put that one. There's another bit of that island one. Let's see, what else have I got here? Is there anything on this one? Oh, there you go, green. So that could go on the green page, yellow page. Now, another thing, don't discount stuff like this. Yes, it's a picture of Naomi Campbell in, looks like a satin bed sheet to me, but if you were to stick this down, even with a head cut off, by the time you put elements in, you may only see this as a colourful element. Do you mean, don't think it has to be covering everything? It's like this on the green page. Yeah, if that's on my green page, and I put something there and there, then all I've got is green patterning. I'm going to be covering the majority of this page. Another one, okay, if I wanted this on my blue page, it's a bit scary, but that could be my entire background, and then I collage stuff on top of it. I said about wrapping paper. Wrapping paper is really thin. It's another bit of green. Okay, there's pink. I've not got pink in this one. This is green, however. I could put that on the page, and that's my entire background. It is green. So maybe with this one, when I do my glue book stuff, maybe I will make this page like jungle themed or something. Again, this has got a green element on it. This is green. Probably wouldn't do that one. I have no idea what I'd stick that one on. Okay, there you go. These are more papers from that book I was talking about. So this is purple. Not sure I'd use it on many pages. It looks like it's got snowflakes on it. But just look around at what you've already got. You could use tissue paper, but be aware if you're using tissue paper, you'll probably find it is so thin, you'll be able to see the lines through it. So you might want to avoid that. Okay, so hopefully this video hasn't been too long. I've tried to make it as concise as possible. So this was my first attempt at a coloured glue book. I really loved it. I did get frustrated at some stuff, and we've already talked about that. It's ongoing. I mean, there are certain, like the yellow section still needs work. I think the green section is pretty much done. I really struggled with purple. Really struggled finding purple images, so which I'm quite pleased there's only 4 pages in there. Red I found really quickly. Orange I found quite quickly as well. Blue I think I found quite quickly because I'm drawn to the colour blue. I put a black and white section in this one, but I didn't put it in this one because I wanted to stick more with the rainbow theme. I put a pink one in here, struggled a bit with pink, which I was surprised at. And then I put this turquoise teal sort of colour in because I really like that colour. But again, I struggled a bit with that. So for those of you who are asking, that's how I build my coloured glue book. I would highly recommend you go across to Nicole at Relax Cut Glue, and the link is in the description box below. Pop across, subscribe to her. She does so many variations of glue books. It's fascinating, and I'd like you to give her a thumbs up or at least a thank you in her comments. Just say I sent you over, because if it wasn't for Nicole, I wouldn't have discovered a coloured glue book. In fact, I may not... Yeah, I was doing glue books, but I wasn't enjoying them. She added the enjoyment and the laughter to it for me. So pop across and say hello to her. Have a look at some of her older videos. You'll see so many different types of glue books. She's a very clever, very funny lady. So with that in mind, I'm going to say goodbye. So I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time. Bye-bye now.